Hello and welcome back to my channel. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope I actually do get this video up on Valentine's Day. I hope you guys are feeling love today, even if you don't have a significant other. I don't either, so I'm sending you my love. Pew pew! Today I'm bringing you another episode of my Read and Rank series, where I take a genre or a subgenre that I've been wanting to try, read 6 books within it, and then rank the books Dance Mom's Pyramid style. I still need to get a wig to fully pull off the Abby Lee Miller role. In today's Read and Rank, we are going over 6 bookish romances. I fell into the deep inside of the romance pool last year after being a full-on romance hater. Like, I was in the romance hater pool. Like, I was a grump when it came to romance. But my heart has softened and now I'm a boy who loves a good romance book. I love the idea of a bookish element coming into play in a romance story, whether it be working at a library, falling in love in the aisle of a bookstore, or a book publisher setting. As a reader who is severely single, the idea of having books involved in my own love story is a dream. Please let me have a meet cute at a bookstore, please! Book gods need to grant my wish already. I picked out 6 books that involve both a love story and books, read them, and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on them and then ranking them at the end of the video pyramid style. I always think it's fun when people try to guess where my rankings lie before the pyramid happens, so be sure to leave your predictions down below in the comments before we get to the pyramid at the end. I'm gonna hold back from giving my star rating on each book until the end of the video. That way it's harder to find out where each book ranks. Without further ado, let's get started. I tried my best to make a book heart. It looks kind of pathetic, but I tried. I just wanted a lovey-dovey backdrop. Anyway, the first book that I read is The Dead Romantics. In this book, we are following Florence, who is a ghostwriter for a romance author. But she's been through a breakup that just has her so done with love. It's the last thing that she wants to think about. And because she's a romance writer, it's kind of sent her into a slump. Her new editor, whom she's incredibly attracted to, she's like, "Dang boy is handsome." I doubt she's saying it like that, but something like that. He is not willing to budge on an extension for this current deadline that she's on. She then receives news from home that will turn her life completely upside down. And we also have this supernatural element that comes into play where our main character is able to see ghosts. I could tell you more, but I think I've told you enough, and if I tell you any more, it might get too spoilery. Just know that the ghost element and the editor both play a huge role in this book. I feel like Taylor Swift needs to drop a new version of New Romantics and call it The Dead Romantics. Baby, we're the dead romantics. The best people in life are ghosts. I know this book is going to be a mixed bag for most people, but I'm over here with my lovey dovey bag. Because hot dang, this book filled up my heart. Like boom boom pow. The thing is, it mixes so many of my favorite things. We've got books. Our main character is a writer. She's a ghost writer. We've got the fact that she's a ghost writer and she actually sees ghosts. There's a death element. Why do I gotta be out here trash for death? There's complicated family relationships, and then on top of it all, there is this fascinating, unique romantic relationship that develops. I just feel like I was set up to love this book. It's like the author plucked so many of my favorite things, threw it in a pot, stirred and brewed this right up. As someone who has read Ashley Poston's books in the past, the Geekarella series is one of my go-to YA recommendations. That book slaps. So many slaps. I will say that the first 2 outshine the last book, but shh, we don't talk about it. It was so cool reading this book and seeing how she's leveled up as a writer. Like, it still sort of has that happy tone to it, that happy-go-lucky, sunshine, fill up my cup with joy quality to it. So there is definitely some seriousness that does come into play. Obviously, death is an element in this story, so that brings on some seriousness. But I feel like the area in which she has boosted up as a writer is in her character work, and specifically in how her characters handle situations that life puts them in. I'm just very impressed. Like, thinking more about it, I'm just like, her characters are just fantastic. I think part of why this book shines for me is because it's more than just a romance. There's a lot happening outside of the bubbling romance that's taking place. Bubbling romance? Is that what I wanted to say? Developing romance? You get what I'm saying. For me to enjoy a book in this genre, it's gotta have a lot going for it, and this has a lot going on. Our main character is not consumed by the idea of falling in love with someone. In fact, at the start of the novel, she is very much so just like done with love. She doesn't want to think about it. She's done, is not focused on being in a relationship at all. And even as the story progresses, sure, there are these like cute little moments, little romantic moments taking place, but like for the most part, she's not focused on finding a relationship, and it's not like overriding her mind, but rather her mind is focused on grief, her family, and also just rediscovering who she is as a person. She's in this spot where she doesn't really know herself anymore, and she's actively working on that part of her life. And it was so satisfying to actually see growth. Authors, take note. Our main character is learning life lessons and growing from it. Wow! This book definitely feels familiar when you first start reading it, but I appreciated the fact that it veers off into its own lane and carves out a very unique element that makes it stand out on its own. On the bookish scale, I would say that it lands on like the lower side. Like, I would give it a 4 out of 10 in terms of being bookish. Yeah, we have the writer element, we have the ghostwriter element, we've got the editor and kind of like the publishing backdrop, but those things are so small compared to what actually goes down in this story. So kind of lower on the bookish side, but I still loved it. Still fantastic. The next book that I read is Meet Cute Club. In this book, we are following two different perspectives. We've got Jordan, who is a lover of romance novels and actually runs a romance book club, but he feels like the book club is dying and it's very important to him and he just doesn't know how to kind of revive it and keep it alive. And then we meet Rex. Rex is a new employee at Jordan's favorite bookstore, and when Jordan goes to check out one day with all of these books that he has, Rex judges him so harshly for his book choices. Jordan is very offended, and Rex is getting a kick out of judging Jordan. It's unlikely that their connection will go further than that, but Jordan is shocked the day that Rex shows up to his book club. Jordan is tempted to turn him away because obviously he doesn't like the guy, but he takes a chance on him and lets him into the club, and soon they will be working together to save the book club. This one was a lot of fun because of the characters in particular. I really just enunciated that like crazy. In particular. Okay, I'm sorry. The back and forth banter between these two, entertaining AF. Also, Rex is one smooth, sweet talker. Sure, he's good at the jabs, but he's also got game with his words. If you want a short and sweet story about these characters who start out where one character despises the other, and the one being despised gets a kick out of bothering the character that despises them, what am I saying? Can you follow? This is your book. It's literally like a shot of cuteness. A cute romance shot. Banter between the two is consistent throughout the story. Even when they move past the sort of rift in their connection, they still make little jokes and jabs at each other, and I feel like just in general, the dialogue really carries this story on its back. My problem though, unfortunately, lies with everything else. I'm like sitting here sweet talking this book, and I'm about to be like, well, hold up 1 second. I got some issues here. I'm all for short books. I love me a good short book, but this one needed at least 100 more pages to fully flesh out the overall relationship and then also flesh out the overall plot. Everything felt very underdeveloped for me, and things to me also felt often like just kind of glanced over. Or we would even be told that something happened and we didn't actually get to see the thing that happened. And I feel like had we would have seen those things, it would have been a little bit more impactful. I just felt like there were a lot of cracks in the story that had they been filled, it would have benefited the story immensely. It's one of those books that's just like on the edge of greatness. Like it's almost there. It's on the top of the hill, overlooking the Valley of Glory, but then it falls down the hill and ends up at the bottom. Another irk is one that I was kind of able to overlook, but it's one that I feel like I want to bring attention to, and that's the fact that like the story kept changing perspectives, but it doesn't tell you when the perspective is changing, so you just kind of have to like figure out who you're reading from at any certain point. It's never stated like, this is Jordan, this is Rex, this is Jordan, this is Rex. It's just like, you have to pick up on the clues, which is fine. I'm not mad about doing that. It just kind of bothers me because sometimes I would be reading Jordan and thinking I was reading Rex, and same the other way around. Sometimes I'd be reading Rex and think I was reading Jordan. I've read quite a few books recently that have done this. One that's coming to mind is Spinning Silver, and it just bothers me. I get that it's a style choice, but it's just not my style. I don't think you should go into this one expecting to get like a deep connection with the characters. To me, personally, my opinion, I felt like it was all pretty surface level, and yet I still had a lot of fun with it. Like just because it didn't go as deep as I wanted it to, I still really enjoyed it. I love, again, the banter. I know I keep bringing it up, but like banter, they're back and forth, incredible. If you can look past the fact that this book doesn't go super deep, you'll have a lot of fun with it. On the bookish scale, I would rate this one pretty highly. The saving of the book club is a pretty prominent element within the story, and then in general, there's a lot of discussions surrounding books. I would rate it a 7 out of 10 on the bookish scale. The next book that I read is The Bromance Book Club. This story follows Gavin, who is a decently famous baseball player, and his marriage is falling apart. His wife confesses to him that she is unsatisfied in the bedroom, and that obviously devastates him. Like, nobody wants to hear that. When his wife asks for a divorce, he feels like his life is about to be over. But then in walks the Bromance Book Club, a group of men who come together to be better in their relationships through the books that they read. They all rally behind Gavin and encourage him and help him become a better partner to his wife in order to help save his marriage. This was wholesome in every way. Oh my god. The more I think about this one, the more it grows on me. It's been a few days since I've read it, and the more time I spend apart from it, the more my heart grows for it. I might end up moving up my rating quite a bit, because I just feel like it deserves more. There was something just so pure about our main character, Gavin, realizing he wasn't fulfilling a need with his wife. And instead of just like accepting that he wasn't fulfilling the need, he was like, okay, I'm gonna work on this. I'm gonna try to be a better person. And then having the support of the Bromance Book Club behind him was just so nice to see. Most men are not willing to recognize when they mess up. And this is coming from a man. Though a soft man at that, I still know what men are like. Most men always think they're right. And it was nice to have a character be like, oop, I'm wrong. I messed up. I gotta do better. And something that I really appreciated is that we have this guy, Gavin, who is set up to be this like very dude bro character, like that's how I imagine all dude bros. In fact, the entirety of the Bromance Book Club is set up to kind of be in that lane of dude bro. But this book is all about them working through their toxic masculinity. I just spit. It's about them learning to be vulnerable and how their life can generally benefit from that. I think I really went into this one with like specific expectations as to how I felt the men would be portrayed, thinking it'd fall into the category of like, we're tough men, we're gonna rough and tough our way through all these relationships. And thank the Lord above, that's not how things played out. One critique that I do have is on Thea's side of things, his wife. When it came to her perspective, I just felt like I needed more details or just more like backing behind her reasoning behind things. I'm saying things in such a roundabout way today, I'm so sorry. Her issues with Gavin are definitely brought up and they're pretty clear, but we see these little details about things that kind of trigger her within relationships, and a lot of it does kind of like relate back to her parents' relationships and just like the love that she was shown growing up. But I just felt like we needed more backing behind some of her reasoning because it just like wasn't made super clear. But I feel like a lot of the things that are covered are done so in a very brushed over way, and we needed more of it to be covered in more of a deep way to like fully understand her side of things. I so appreciated the fact that like Gavin doesn't always get it right. Even as he's working on himself, he continues to mess up. There's so many times he messes up, and even I was cringing. I was like, Gavin, you've been doing so good and you're messing up so bad right now. Can we please get back on track, Gavin? But I loved seeing his progress, and I loved seeing the process of him messing up, how he would like take a step back, process his actions, and be like, wow, I actually am being a little turd right now and I need to fix this. It was just nice to see that he didn't get it right every time, and it was very realistic. Like that's real life. You're not always gonna get it right every time. And I just love seeing that reflected in here. This was another book where I felt like the growth was very apparent by the end of the book. Like you see growth in Gavin, and he is definitely a better person, and he's continuing to make choices that will put him in a better position in life, and it just made me so happy. On the bookish scale, I would rate this one pretty highly. We've got the bromance book club, and then Gavin also is referencing a book throughout the story to help him improve on the relationship, though he follows it a little too closely. If you know, you know. But I'm gonna give this like a solid 6 out of 10 on the bookish scale. The next book that I read is Let's Talk About Love. Let's talk about love, baby. This story follows Alice, who works at a library, and she's going through a bit of a hard time as she begins to kind of become comfortable with her sexuality, and her trying her best to be confident as asexual. When she meets this guy named Takumi at the library, they instantly form a bond, and now Alice is questioning whether she should keep it safe and just be friends with Takumi, or if she should ruin the friendship and reveal her feelings to him. This one was nice. I enjoyed my time reading it. It just wasn't a standout, which is always sucky. Like, I hate when you read a book and it's like fine. You don't hate it. It's just like middle ground. It's fine. You wouldn't highly recommend it. You're just okay with it. That sucks. Mind you, I think this book is very important, specifically because this book does cover an asexual character. And I feel like a lot of people who are asexual or who are questioning if they are asexual, this book is super important for those people because they can see themselves in the pages and recognize different things about their identity. Alice is still coming to terms with her sexuality in this story, and she's learning to be confident in who she is and not be afraid to like talk about it openly. Something that I loved about this story is kind of the complexities that come with turning a friendship into a relationship, because that line is always really scary. You want to stay friends, but you also know that you have more of a romantic feeling for them. If you reveal your feelings to them, are they going to reciprocate those feelings? Are they going to shut you down? If you reveal your feelings, will it end the friendship? If you get in a relationship and the relationship goes bad, you're going to lose a friend potentially. It's very complicated, and I loved seeing that complication come into play. I also did like the parental exploration in this one, even though it is kind of aggravating because they have this like idea of what they want for Alice. They want Alice to go for law school, and she's like, nah, that's not my dream, that's your dream. We see her with this immense amount of pressure to live up to her parents' expectations, but also just like wanting to live life for herself. And that brings in a lot of tension and complications, and I loved that element of the story, even though it was like frustrating to read about. Parents can be so frustrating. On the bookish scale, I would rate this one somewhat low. Like the vibes were definitely there. Most of the story takes place at a library because Alice works at a library, but it really was just kind of the backdrop. So I would say I would give it like a 3 on the bookish scale. I think I'm gonna go with 3, yeah. The next book that I read is Must Love Books. In this book, we follow Nora, who works in the publishing world, and she ends up in a position where she is working for 2 publishing houses, which is really not allowed because they're competitors, and it's just a sticky situation overall. She finds herself infatuated with an author, but things get really sticky when you mix business with romance. This one was far from what I was expecting, like far. It's pitched as a romance, and I would argue the fact that it is not a romance at all. In fact, the romance aspect of this book is so small. And when I say small, I mean teeny, tiny, small. Nora works in publishing and ends up meeting this author, and they have a little romance moment, a little rendezvous, if you will. But part of her motives for being with him are so twisted. Oh, it frustrates me even thinking about it now. Like, sure, she does have feelings for him and they do connect and she's attracted to him and they relate on a lot of levels. But there's also this like element that comes into play where she's kind of mixing business with a romantic relationship, but like keeping him out of the loop from knowing that she's mixing business with the relationship, and it just... oh, I didn't like it. I really hated it. Every time it like popped up in her mind where she was like thinking of the business side of things, I was like, girl, don't be doing that. Don't be mixing business with pleasure. It's gonna end up in a very bad spot. And that it does. It blows up in her face. I mostly just didn't like the journey of our main character. When the fact that everything blows up in the end, it never really felt like the consequences to her actions added up. And it's really bad. The position that she gets involved in this book is really bad. And sure, she is going through a lot of hard stuff. Like mentally, she is going through it. And I recognize that fact. Life isn't really going in the way that she expected to. And she also had a really bad pay cut at one of her jobs. And her mental health is at an all-time low. I just felt like the outcome should have been a little bit different. The good thing is that we do see growth with our main character. By the end of it, she's making decisions that will line her up into a better position in life and will just make her a happier person in general. That's nice to see that she wasn't just like holding herself in this dark place until she exploded again, and that she was able to like move past the mistakes and start paving a path that is a much brighter path than the one that she was on. Andrew, the author in this book, is the winning factor of the story. I loved Andrew. He deserved so much better, and I honestly wish that we had his perspective in this book. I feel like it would have enhanced the story a little bit, and it would have been nice to see how he truly felt about the things that went down. If anybody else has read this book, please tell me your thoughts. I need to hear your thoughts. I will say on the bookish scale, it gets a 10. This is the most bookish book I read in this video, I would say. It was bookish through and through. We've got the publishing setting, we've got a girl working in publishing, we've got the author, we've got a bookstore element that comes into play at some point. It nailed it in terms of being bookish. The last and final book that I read for this video is Book Lovers. This is a very popular book and I've been wanting to read it for a long time. In it we follow Nora, another Nora. We've got two Noras in this video. She works in New York as a literary agent and she has literally dedicated her life to books and her career. Because of this, she has struggled to find a partner. She's really struggled in the romance department. When her sister Libby finally convinces her to take a break and go on vacation with her to North Carolina, Nora finds herself bumping into Charlie, this guy that she has had many run-ins with, many situations that could have been a meet cute, but they've all been disastrous. I'm sure you can imagine where things lead off from there. I think I'm gonna go on a rant, but it's not necessarily because of this book. I just am sitting here thinking about this and I need to spit it out. I think my struggle with a lot of romance books in general is how apparent the love interest tends to be. And I think this is something that I just need to get over in general. I like the idea of being surprised by who the main character is going to end up with. But a lot of books these days, not only in the romance genre, are pitched by tropes. We've got things like enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, rivals to lovers. It's typically easy to pick out who the love interest is gonna be. And I mention it now because I just feel like it's something that a lot of these books are missing. That sort of element of surprise when it comes to the romance. And that was present here. Like, it didn't ruin the story for me. In fact, I would say that I adored the romance in this one. But I knew right away who the love interest was gonna be because of how it was pitched. Let's just start talking about the relationship in general because I loved it. It was so meaningful in so many ways. The two love interests just get each other. They have like such a nice understanding for each other, and that was so great to see. Even if they have a lot of differences and they are really good at like making jabs at each other, they also have a lot of things that connect each other. They both are going through and have been through a lot. Specifically, I feel like when it comes to their parents, that was something that like stood out to me, is that they both have like parental situations that are affecting them. I just love the fact that every time we see them together interacting and talking and conversing, that they are going deep into these conversations. The relationship is one that never felt like surface level to me, and it also didn't feel like automatic. Like, yes, even though I knew who she was going to end up with, it wasn't like they ended up in a good spot right away. They had to work hard to get to that good spot with each other, but I loved seeing that process. I think for me, the sibling relationship really shined in this book. We have these sisters who are incredibly close. Their whole lives, it's just been their mom and them, and then they became even closer after the passing of their mother. I do think that we see as the story progresses how their reliance on each other is not necessarily like the most healthy, and there's a lot of learning and growth to be done on both sides of that relationship as they continue to navigate life, honoring that bond that they have. It's recognized that it's important for them to find a healthy balance. On the bookish side of things, I think that I would rate this one a little bit on the lower side. It was definitely very bookish. Like, obviously we follow a literary agent and we follow an editor, but outside of that, the bookish vibes were smaller than I was expecting. So I would say maybe like a 4 out of 10, maybe a 5 out of 10, 4, probably 4. Okay, we'll go with 4. It is time for the Dance Mom style pyramid ranking, but with books. Books. If you haven't sent in your book ranking predictions yet, now is the time. Let's get to it. Drum roll, please. Starting at the bottom, we've got Must Love Books. Honestly, I blame this positioning on the marketing for this book. This is not a romance book. Had it maybe been marketed as some kind of contemporary story, I would have been into it. But I went into it with certain expectations, and those expectations were not met. I ended up giving it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Moving up the pyramid, we've got Meet Cute Club. You were cute. You probably would have moved up the ranking had you just been like a couple pages longer. By a couple, I mean like 50 to 100. I ended up giving this one a 3 out of 5 stars. Moving on up, we've got Let's Talk About Love, Baby. You're definitely an important book, and I feel like people who identify as asexual will find themselves in the pages of this book, and I think that that is super important. I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars. Moving up the pyramid, we've got Book Lovers. I really loved Book Lovers. I loved how it was more than just a romance. There's so much more going on, so many different little subplots that all tie together really nicely by the end of the book. I ended up giving Book Lovers a 4 out of 5 stars. Moving up the pyramid, we've got the Bromance Book Club. Oh yeah! When I was talking about my thoughts on this book, I was mentioning the fact that I was thinking about moving up my rating. I originally gave this a 4 out of 5 stars, but like I feel like it might be more of a 5-star rating, because the more that I think about it, the more that I liked it. I just had a few issues with like Thea's perspective. I just wish she would have been fleshed out a little bit more. But other than that, like it was a banger of a book and super wholesome and just right up my alley. So I might move it up in terms of my rating. And of course that leaves us with the top slot. We've got The Dead Romantics. The book that you are. You're morbid, you're beautiful, you're fantastic, you're heartbreaking, you're wonderful, you're all of the above. I feel like Ashley Poston wrote this for me. Like I feel like she got into my head and found all my interests and was like, bam, a 5 out of 5 star rating from me. That's it for today's episode of Read and Rank. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode. I really loved reading these books. It was a lot of fun. I think I love the idea of romance books having some kind of bookish element. Like obviously I love books, so it just makes sense that I would like some kind of bookish element coming into play. And I definitely had a lot of fun reading these books. You guys should let me know down below in the comments if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them. And if you haven't read any of them, let me know in the comments if you are planning to pick up any of these books. I've already begun planning the next episode for Read and Rank, and I believe it'll be covering cozy fantasy. But I also want to hear suggestions for future episodes, whether it be a genre or a subgenre that you want me to explore, or if it's just like a book that has like a specific element that you don't typically see me reading about, like dragons or robots or musicians, things like that. Just let me know down below in the comments, and I will definitely start writing down ideas for future episodes. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon, and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Don't forget that you are loved, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye all! Was that ending cheesy? Probably, but you are loved, okay? Oh no! The Geekerella, the geek. I can't spit it out. The Geekerellas, Giga. It sounds like I'm saying Giga. The Gigarellas. In this book, we follow Nora. Oh, I just hit my nose. In this book, I need to start over. When her sister Libby, why was that funny? That wasn't even funny, Jesse.